Hey everybody, what's going on? Eric here, and you are looking at the 2000 Epiphone S series. This one was made in Korea, and I did find out some information about this thing. This does have a plywood body. As you can see, it's red and white, maple neck, maple fretboard, and this fretboard is not stained or discolored in any way. It's actually dyed this way, so it's got a little bit of a gold tint to it. Also, the Epiphone inlay on the headstock, if that's an inlay, is also gold in color as well. I'm surprised they didn't put the hardware gold plating on it or anything. It's all chrome hardware. Now, this thing had the plastic over the pick guard, the protective plastic that you normally would get when you buy it new, and had the little seal on here for the Epiphone's warranty. Also, the back cover for the tremolo springs also had a plastic on it. Now I ended up removing that, and it kind of left me with a nice, clean, brand new looking guitar after I polished up the body a little bit. There was a little bit of scuffing in this area over here, but it was nothing that rubbing compound couldn't take care of. So it's got my fingerprints all over it because I ended up doing a setup on there. But other than that, it's like a brand new fucking guitar. Now, I don't know what the guy or girl, whoever owned this, did to this thing before they sold it or tried to do with this thing as far as the setup goes, because it was way off, really bad. I ended up tuning it up with the strings that were on here, and come to find out that the strings are touching the pickups. The tremolo was like all the way down against the body in the front. There's only two screws. It's got a blade in there. It pivots, and the V part of the blade pivots on the screws in the V part of it, kind of like a Floyd Rosewood. And also all of the saddles were kind of tilted to go with the angle of the neck, which, like I said before, some people would say that's good. Some people will argue that no, that's not right. The saddles should be straight and kind of go up in steps and go down in steps with the angle, but being flat, straight. Now, I checked the neck. I ended up doing after the strings were off, I leveled off the neck with the level gauge, whatever you want to call it, ruler, and ended up making sure it's nice and flat before I started doing any strings on it. I checked the frets themselves to see if there was any of them that were high or low, or if there's a twist in the neck or anything, and everything seemed to be pretty good. Now, when I took the truss rod cover off, now the truss rod cover on this is also a 2-ply, and it has the Gibson label on it. Now, they didn't have the plastic on this. Somebody already peeled that off, but it's not scratched up, surprisingly. When I took the truss rod cover off, there was a lot of rubbing compound inside of the hole where the truss rod, you put the truss rod wrench, and even inside of the screw that the Allen key would fit into, it was packed with rubbing compound. I don't think this truss rod cover has ever been off of here. Now, like I said, I don't know what the other guy or girl did to this thing as far as trying to do a setup, but they really had this thing messed up. So I tried to hunt down online to see, okay, is there a certain measurement that the bridge has to be? Because when I tried to set this thing up with the bridge all the way down to the body in the front, I basically maxed out almost all the screws for the action height on the saddles. And started looking at this as like, okay, something is wrong here. Something's not right. So I ended up just hunting down online, just looking at some photos of basically the same guitar. Same setup, but possibly a different year. And come to find out that the tremolo is raised up off of the body in the front. Now, you could dock it or you could float it. I can go either way with this. So all I got to do is loosen the springs up in the back a little bit, and this is now a floating system. I kind of want it docked or blocked or whatever you want to call it, because when I do palm muting on there, I'm going to put some pressure on it. I'm going to throw everything out of whack when I try playing this thing. So I kind of have it where it's resting on the body. Not a big deal. I foiled the inside of this thing, had to tighten up the tone control, volume controls, had to tighten up the output jack, Had to clean the pots a little bit. They kind of felt a little bit on the tight side as far as trying to turn them. Now they feel pretty nice and smooth. Cleaned the 3-way or 5-way, switch on this thing, and everything seems to be really good. Readjusted the pickup height. There was a problem where there was a wire tie underneath the humbucker on this thing, and it was stopping the pickup from going down any further. So it was starting to push it on an angle. So I ended up removing that. Didn't have to remove the neck. There's no shim behind it. You would be able to see a little bit on the side over here if it was kind of sticking up a little bit. The nut on this thing, I have to order a blank and make a new nut for this thing. Otherwise, right now it has the original plastic nut. And what else? I think I mentioned it's got a plywood body. I should come to find out that a lot of these things had a plywood body on them, which I don't think there's anything wrong with it. This body here is not really showing signs of splitting or anything around the edges. Again, other than my fingerprints being all over this thing, it's in pretty good shape. One thing I noticed with this, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but the Epiphone label up here is in like gold almost. I don't know if it is an inlay or not. Possibly is. It kind of looks like mother of toilet seat, but it's gold. Now I ended up cleaning out the truss rod slot because, like I said, it was packed with rubbing compound. This thing still has the plastic protection sheets over the back of the tuners, and as you can see, the neck is, it's not stained. It is basically, I guess, dyed this color to be like this, and it looks very nice. It's got some real nice wood grain in it. It does have a scarf joint on there. I don't know if I kind of watched the last video that I made about this thing when I unboxed it, saying that it smelled like cigarette smokes. If you go back and watch that video, if you want to, it's up to you. If you listen to it carefully, I said it did not smell like cigarette smoke, and it still doesn't. So this thing is not stained because of somebody smoking around it a lot. Now I got a new set of Ernie Ball Cobalts on here, 9s. What else? That's about it. Now I've got the truss rod set to 12 thousandths. The action height on this thing, I'm using my little card over here. It's set below, like where it says 5/64. It's actually lower than 5/64. Because on this card here, it has a line on there, and I think it's right where the where you're supposed to be. It's right at that line. Well, I'm a little bit lower than that line, just like a hair lower than that line. And then on the high side, I'm a little bit lower than a 16th. And it's not bad. I mean, action height is lower than what I would normally put it, and that works out pretty good. So next thing is to hear what this thing sounds like. I end up readjusting the pickup height on this thing, and yeah, this thing should be pretty damn good now. I have to do a few more things with it, and possibly do maybe a test with it as far as what it sounds like. Now I have had it plugged in, I have listened to it and what it sounds like. I kind of like the way this thing sounds. It's got a nice tone to it, flipping through. Not too sure how they have the switches set up over here, but this humbucker does not get split. As far as I know, it does not get split as you switch it through the switches on the 5-way switch. So I really don't think that it splits it into a single coil. I looked at the humbucker as far as the wires go, and all it has is a two wires coming off of it, a ground and a positive. So I don't think you can split that. It has to be like a 3-wire or 4-wire or something like that. Now, I did polish the frets on this, so those are nice and clean. There's no dents in the frets. There's no wear marks in the frets. All there was a stain on top of the fret, basically from the strings, where it oxidized a little bit. And that came right off. Not a big deal. There is no wear at all in this fretboard at all. This has a gloss finish to it. I know some of you guys don't like that because it gets sticky on the fingers or something when your fingers start sweating. but there's no wear on it at all. I don't know if this thing was played. I don't know if this thing was bought and kind of like somebody didn't know how to set it up. The only thing that's good on this that I haven't had to mess with, it was the setting up the intonation on this thing. I didn't have to touch it. It's a little bit off, which I do have to fine tune it, but as far as how close it is, yeah, it's not bad at all. So that's about it. Next is to, just fine tune everything and make sure everything's working, plug it in, and listen to each pickup as far as going through the settings to see if one sounds louder than the other, readjust the pickup height as far as that goes, to make sure they all blend in pretty good. And that'll be it, I guess. Unless I forgot something, you guys can remind me. Then I'll polish it up. Now, as far as keeping this thing, I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I kind of like it. It's a very interesting guitar, but it's nothing. It's an Epiphone. There's really nothing too special about it. It almost looks like a brand fucking new guitar, which I'm kind of surprised for something that has been like they said it was used, and I figured, okay, well, it's going to be used. When I picked this thing up, I kind of figured on maybe a refinish on this thing. If it was going to be pretty scratched up or some dings in it or something, I was thinking about refinishing it. And I had a few ideas of what I wanted to do, but I don't have to. So anyways,